Greetings and salutations, TheKyllax here, back again with the Combo Breaker patch notes initial reaction. This time focusing on Ravana. Of the overall look of him, it looks like Kumbhakarna and Ram's recolor had a kid together. Uh, that's what it looks like. Kumbhakarna, of course, being a little bit fatter, but just the overall face of Ravana looks like Kumbhakarna plus the skin color of Ram's recolor. He looks okay. He looks fine. Let's look at his passive. Passive is called Chain of Blows. Each successful hit within 5 seconds adds to Ravana's combo chain, allowing Prana Onslaught, that's his one ability, to do an additional 7.5% damage for each hit in the combo, up to a maximum of 60% total. And additional hits above 8 will not count towards this damage again until Prana Onslaught has been fired. Excuse me. So, if you watch the patch notes, he has a very, very quick auto attack chain. Almost as quick, probably almost as fast as like Kali. I would have to actually see the auto attack, the attack chain timing of Kali. In order to verify or deny that, but of course in the combo breaker it wouldn't matter anyway, because in the patch notes the attack chain is not there in the speeds. Moving along, just basically take my word for it. He attacks very quickly, building up 8 stacks in 5 seconds. Well, he doesn't have to build up 8 stacks within 5 seconds. He just has 5 seconds to build an additional stack. Anyway, long story short, this 8 stacks for 7.5% damage, or up to a maximum of 60% additional damage, is added onto his one called Prana Onslaught, where Ravana throws a powerful punch, protecting his prana with it to deal 60, 80, 110, 150, 200 plus 75% of physical power damage, and slowing for 2 seconds all enemies in front of him. That was, I don't feel like that was mentioned in the patch notes, so it's important to notice that does slow. It doesn't say how much it slows, but it does slow. So the scaling on it, and I also came prepared for this, is I'm basing in the scaling versus Hercules. Hercules has his driving strike, for instance, 85, let's just look at level 1. 85 damage plus an additional, where's it at? Plus 90% of your power, additional power of your physical power. That is huge scaling. Prana Onslaught just by itself only does 60 damage, so it does 25 less damage plus 15% less physical power contribution to it. What to keep in mind is that Ravana's passive contributes as well to that, so that will push the scaling of his one over the scaling of Hercules' driving strike. But the ability itself is just a small, where am I? Can't see my hand. There we go. It's just a small cone in front of him. So maybe like power cleave. Think a Tier's power cleave kind of range. Maybe a little bit further than that, but you kind of get that air. You get the idea. It's just this cone in front of him, and he kind of smacks it together. Kabrakan's shield wall, or where he smashes the 2 shields together. And I've been out of casting for so long, I don't even remember the ability names. That just shows you how out of the loop I am with that. Anyway, moving along, it's a very short, small range. That's what's to keep in mind of there. And the scaling on it and the damage numbers on it aren't that high, but when you factor in his passive, it does actually become a little bit higher. Moving along, Prana Onslaught. Ravana throws a powerful punch, protecting his prana with it, to deal 60, 80, 110, we'll just look at level 1. 60 damage plus, again, 75% of his physical power. Even looking at Hercules' Earthbreaker is 60 damage plus 50% of his physical power. So while it's more than the Earthbreaker, it's not more than the driving strike. Not to say that every ability has to have those same numbers as Hercules' driving strike, but just to kind of give you a frame of reference. Or, excuse me, I was looking at that. Sorry. 55 damage plus 70% of his physical power. What I said still stands. The numbers and scaling are less than driving strike, but they're more than Earthbreaker. What's important to notice about this is that it damages all enemies in a line and renders him damage immune during the action. Excuse me. Let me take a drink of water and I will say that again. Renders him damage immune during the ability. So while he's doing his little backflip, he is immune to damage. So think Chang'e's 2, essentially. He is immune to damage. He's still susceptible to CC, so that's something to keep in mind, but he is damage immune. So if you're going to try and burst down a Ravana, just try and keep in mind that ability is still available to him. The cooldown, going back real quick to the Piranha Onslaught, cooldown really low, 6 seconds, by the way. Now back to the overhead kick. The cooldown on that is very high. 16 seconds, dropping down all the way down to 12 seconds, built in 40% cooldown reduction. I think at most that will get you down to about 7 seconds at the final level. So those are still some high, at least has high cooldown on it. I don't know if I agree or so much with damage immune abilities. I don't like damage immune abilities. I don't like CC immune abilities either, other than ultimates. I like them on ultimates, but I don't like them on just regular abilities because I just feel like they're too powerful. Moving along. 10-hand Shadow Fist. Ravana's fists fly forward, dealing 115 plus 55% of his physical power. Again, the scaling's not that great. The numbers in and of themselves are not that great either. Passing through minions and stopping at the first god hit. The hit gods are rooted for 1 second, damaging, and it also gives him a heal. That's kind of one of the important things about this ability is it gives a root if it hits an enemy god, and it also heals him back. The heal is not that great. I think at maximum, I caught it. It said it returns a little over 2% of health back to Ravana. So it's not like a Bologna Scourge. So, I mean, it's giving him some sustain, like most warriors have in their kit, but I wouldn't see anybody. I wouldn't expect huge healing numbers out of it. And plus the cooldown is huge. It's 18 seconds, and that does not scale down either. So, moving along. We'll talk about his laning here in a second. Mystic Rush. His ultimate, Ravana rushes to his target, dealing 70, 100, 125, 150, 175, plus 35% of his physical power and damage to them, and knocking aside all enemies in his path. You should note that this is a dash. It's not a jump. You can't go over obstacles or over walls or anything. It is a dash. The target is then linked to Ravana, doing full damage to him, while all other enemies do 40% reduced damage. Let's talk about the numbers real quick. Those are super low. Super low damage numbers. Dealing 70 damage plus 35% of his physical power at rank 1. Looking at Excavate, 300 damage and 100% of your physical power into Excavate on his ultimate. That's at rank 1. So not only is his physical power contribution going to be 65% higher, it is also the base damage is also 230 damage higher. So it is not a burst ability. This is not a pull out a boulder from the ground and kill somebody with it ability. What's important to note about this ability is the linkage. So this part again, I'm going to read it again. The target is then linked to Ravana, doing full damage to him, while all other enemies do 40% reduced damage. That's not, I don't feel like that's worded correctly. What that means to say is after you do your ultimate on a god, that god can do full damage to you just like he could before, while everybody else does 40% reduced damage. It doesn't say the duration of that. I feel like that's kind of needed here, but we'll assume it's kind of like standard duration, which is about 5 seconds. So what that means is, and what you should see a Ravana do, especially in team fights, is ult the Guardian during team fights. And you're not going to do it for the damage, because the damage is let's be honest, the damage is piss poor. That is really low damage. That's really low base numbers. That's really low scaling. But what you're going to do is ult the Guardian so that you're linked to him. So the Guardian will be able to do full damage to you. Oh no, not full damage from the Guardian, I better start shaking in my boots right now. But what you're doing it for is to get reduced damage, 40% reduced damage from everybody else. That's what you're doing it for. It'll be a very powerful initiation tool, I feel. And that's it. Looking at the damage numbers, the only thing that you will gain by upgrading the ultimate past rank 1 is just 5 seconds of cooldown. Not worth it, in my opinion. With these damage numbers and the physical power contribution, you're going to be better off upgrading his Prana Onslaught first, and just getting 1 point in your ultimate, A as an escape, as the dash escape, and as the reduced damage linkage, and just because the Prana Onslaught scaling is so much better and so much higher. Now, talking about him, where is he going to go? He's a warrior, so he's supposed to be able to do a little bit of everything. I feel with how small the cone is on his Prana Onslaught, I don't think he's going to be able to hit the entire minion wave. So I think he's going to have problems clearing. That is just my, like I said, this is my initial reaction to it, and to the god. So that is my initial reaction, is that he's going to have trouble in the lane. He might be more successful in the jungle. I don't know. Ravana's really weird. His numbers are really, really low. Using using Hercules as an example, his numbers are really low and his scaling is really low. So there you go. And there's his recolor skin. And somebody pointed out on Twitter, I think it was Penguin of Death, who pointed out on Twitter that Rom's main skin is blue and his alternate is orange. Meanwhile, Ravana's main skin is orange and his alternate is blue. His voice pack sounds like, I'll leave you with this. His voice pack sounds like Ao Kwong smoked a pack a day and drank a lot. It's very gruff. It's very, it's very gravelly. It's very gruff, but I could definitely hear like the Ao Kwong behind it. So there you go. And yeah, that's about it from Ravana. Initial judgment, his damage is not very high. He doesn't have a whole lot of CC. And yeah, I think he's gonna be buffed. His first Puff, his first patch, will be a buff. That is my guess right now. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed this initial reaction to Ravana. And thanks for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And we can argue down in the comments below all you want. And so, again, thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you in game.